There are places where silence feels ordinary, and there are places where silence feels alive. Here, the air is sharper, heavier, as if the atmosphere itself carries weight. Sound disappears quickly. Movement slows without instruction. Before you know its name, you feel its extremity. This is Yakutia, a vast region in northeastern Siberia, known for some of the coldest inhabited temperatures on Earth. Here, winter does not arrive gently. It settles in completely. Land freezes deep, rivers lock into ice, and life adapts to conditions few places can endure. Temperatures fall far below expectation. Breath turns visible instantly. Metal hardens, wood cracks, and distance feels endless. Yet the landscape remains immense. Tiger forests, wide rivers, open plains, all suspended in white. not allow carelessness. It demands understanding of the environment at every step. Slowly, but perspective remains altered. This land leaves behind a quiet lesson. That resilience can be silent. That endurance can define identity. And that even in the coldest places on Earth, life persists with clarity and strength. Leaving the flat, frozen plains of Yakutia behind, the horizon begins to fracture. White stretches upward into ridgelines, and the land gathers itself into height. Silence remains, but it grows sharper here, carried by wind across exposed slopes and endless snow. This is the Verkhoyansk range, a remote mountain system in northeastern Siberia, known not for towering fame, but for severity. Here, winter dominates with authority, and temperature defines existence more than elevation ever could. seasonal, but is defining. Air burns against skin. Snow hardens into terrain. Everything moves with caution. These mountains do not soften under sunlight. They hold their freeze. Resistant and absolute. Distance feels endless. There are no clear borders between valley and sky. Only vastness layered in white and shadow. Human presence feels temporary here. Small against the raw geometry of ridges and ice. Leaving the Verkhoyansk range feels like stepping away from extremity. Warmth returns slowly, but respect remains. These mountains leave behind a sharpened awareness. That endurance can shape land as much as force. And that silence, in its coldest form, can be profoundly powerful. The Verkhoyansk range fades into distance, the land does not soften. It fractures further. Ridges multiply, valleys deepen, and isolation intensifies. The horizon grows more complex, less predictable. As if Siberia is revealing a harsher chapter of itself. This is the Chersky range. Remote, rugged, and largely untouched. Here, mountains do not rise for spectacle. They rise because tectonic pressure demanded it. Sharp peaks and fractured stone define a landscape that feels raw and unfiltered. Wind moves with force across exposed ridges. Nothing here suggests comfort, only endurance. There are few signs of human trace in these mountains. Distance dominates. Travel becomes an act of persistence rather than curiosity. In this isolation, the land feels sovereign, untouched by urgency, uninterested in observation. The mountains recede slowly, but their severity lingers. They leave behind a sharpened understanding that some landscapes exist not to welcome, but simply to endure, unchanged and uncompromising. As the fractured ridges of the Chersky range deepen, one summit rises above the rest. Sharp, isolated, and severe, it pulls the eye upward. The landscape narrows into focus, and Siberia gathers its extremity into a single peak. This is Mount Pobeda, the highest summit of the Chersky range. Here, elevation meets isolation. Snow grips the slopes tightly, and wind moves without resistance. Nothing softens this mountain. It stands as a culmination of cold and stone. not climbed casually. Its ridges are steep, its weather unpredictable, its remoteness absolute. Ambition here is tested quickly. The mountain does not reward force. It tolerates preparation and respect. This height, sound fades into wind. Breath becomes deliberate. Movement measured. The world below disappears into white and shadow. Mount Pobeda feels less like a destination and more like a boundary. Pobeda feels like stepping back from an edge. Scale returns slowly, but the sharpness remains. A reminder that Siberia holds summits defined not by fame, but by severity, standing quietly where endurance meets sky. Isolation of Mount Pobeda behind, the horizon widens once more. One peak gives way to many. Ridges multiply, valleys deepen, and the land regains complexity. The extremity does not fade. It expands, unfolding into a broader, colder silence. This is the Suntar-Khayata range, a remote mountain system in eastern Siberia. where glacier grip the slopes and snow lingers through long seasons. Here, altitude and cold combine, forming a landscape defined by endurance rather than height alone. Rests across these mountains like a second skin. Glacier moves slowly through narrow valleys, carving stone without urgency. The terrain feels sculpted by pressure and persistence, a record of time etched in white and grey. The Suntar-Khayata range does not perform for the traveler. It exists independently,